Michael Roach is an award-winning professional certified marketer. He runs his own marketing firm, Michael Roach Creative, and is a past president of the American Marketing Association New York Capital Region chapter. Michael thrives in a fast-paced creative environment and enjoys training and speaking with an audience about marketing, design, business, career development, and technology. And today we're going to be talking about why consumers distrust advertisers and what your business can do about it. So there's some shady junk out there, right? Like we all see some of these ads. The funny one that keeps popping up for me is all of these ads that are like, how to fill your programs without ever running ads. I'm like, why are you running ads then if that's how you're going to teach me how to fill my programs?
Right.
So let's start off by talking about why is some of this shady marketing happening and, how do we do that differently and better?
Right. So what's happening is that people are, extremely focused on just profit.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of cases, some businesses are just, they have their just motivations, ahead of everything else. They're not trying to build a brand. They're not trying to create relationships. They're just going in for that sale. And the
Mm-hmm.
moment you do that, consumers, their detector goes off and they're like, uh-oh, something's not right. And
Yeah.
they shut down, and then your message just falls flat, right in front of them. So that's a lot of times what's happening. And people are using things like, putting it in the fine print and making it small and hard to read, and making the text move fast. So
Well,
yeah.
and what's interesting to me is I don't understand this because anybody who knows anything about marketing should know that it costs a lot more to get a new client than it does to keep a client. And
Yes.
so if you're going to spend all that money to bring in the first client and then you're going to tick them off because your marketing is shady and your terms are shady, and we just had this experience with our internet service that there was some real fine print stuff on there that we didn't know about. And now it's like, oh, that's an issue. So we're not staying, like we're leaving. We've been with this company for 2 months and we're now in the process of getting a new company. So
Right.
client retention, I think, really requires that we have good transparency throughout the process.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things you could do to just let your current customers know that you're there for them, that you support them, that you're um, ready to go the extra mile and, just be there with customer service. There are plenty of things that you could say about that in terms of your marketing messages and your advertising. And profit is important, of course, but it shouldn't be the first thing, that
Yeah.
first motivation.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about offending people in our marketing. I don't know that in the history of my lifetime, we've ever had such an emotionally charged season, right? And there's a lot of people that are quick to be offended, and there's a lot of people that are saying offensive things
Mm-hmm.
that they're like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. How do we walk that line of being sensitive and I don't know, how do we walk that line of being sensitive, culturally aware, and at
Mm-hmm.
the same time not feel like we're afraid to get blasted, because companies are getting blasted right now for
Yes.
marketing mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a tough line to walk. There's no hard and fast rule about it. Really, it seems though that when you create a sense of transparency with what you're doing, if you
Mm-hmm.
make a misstep, own up to it, and
Yeah.
just don't try to sweep it under the rug. And a lot of times consumers will raise their hand and say, you know what, I'm going to complain about that. So that happens quite a bit. But another thing that folks could do in terms of making sure that these messages aren't offensive or, try to appeal to people in a sensitive way is, build a diverse team.
I'm so glad you said that, because
Yeah.
if you didn't, I was going to. So many of the marketing missteps, I'm like, what that tells me is you had no diversity in your marketing team, and
Hmm.
nobody raised their hand and said, by the way, this is really offensive. And so
Yes.
they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, we didn't know. Well, you should have had diversity in your marketing team. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Or it doesn't even have to be like a full-fledged, large team. It could be a committee or an advisory board to, review things and make sure that things are a little bit more compliant or, and ethical.
Yeah, well,
Things
I
like
think a great example of that was it H&M? Um, they had in their marketing campaign, they had an African American boy and he had a monkey on his shirt.
that.
And I, as a Caucasian mother, like I call my boys monkeys all the time because they're constantly climbing all over me.
Yeah.
But there's a totally different connotation for
Hmm.
African American people to be looking at their child with a shirt that has a monkey on it. And it was such bad messaging
Hmm.
that all they had to do was have one person with brown skin on their team to say that's not going to go over well, and they would
Yep.
have saved themselves so much fallout.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was a mess. That was like what, 4 years ago, probably
Yeah,
four or
something
five
like
years
that.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think the patience level is done. That if you don't have diversity in your marketing department, you got to get it ASAP.
Yeah.
Um, one other thing with that is in all of your, and this is something that I was looking at as I was writing my presentations. I think all of us are a little bit more aware right now. I hope that we're all a little bit more aware right now to being sensitive and kind and inclusive. But I was looking at my slides and looking at what does the diversity look like in my PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentations? What does the diversity look like in my stock images?
Hmm.
And what is, like, as we're doing things, are we being inclusive with our messaging? And not just that we feel like we're an inclusive person, but
Right.
does everything that we're putting out there look inclusive as well? Do you have any tips in that regard for how we can be more inclusive and more effective with our messaging, so that it is a message of like hope and peace and community, where
Hmm.
there's so many divisive messages out there?
Right. That's a great question. I think there are a lot of different ways to do this. One example is to do something like a checklist and make sure that you are, maybe it's a checklist of don'ts or maybe a
Yeah.
checklist of do's, that you are not just saying that we got this covered and we're going to move forward, but you don't want to make any glaring mistakes that could really, hurt you in the long run. So maybe coming up with, that kind of system or process. Maybe it's some sort of workflow that is going from one with some sort of, uh, legal, person that can kind of check this messaging for you. Um, Other things, just overall, just being culturally aware and just looking at some of the other kinds of marketing that's out there. I think marketing fails. That can be
Mhm.
a very educational thing too, looking at what
Yeah.
people have done wrong and saying, well, okay, I'm not going to do that. That's something to put in my swipe file and, not do that, or make sure that I remember to check for making sure that, things look a little bit more diverse and
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, and I'll just say, I feel like this is the time in the season where
Mhm.
if you truly believe that you're a good person at heart, you need to be studying racial inequities and getting the history behind that. I've been part of a book club and a part of a couple of groups where I'm just in student mode.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we're very quick to jump right in and think that we understand the story when there's a long, long story behind it.
Hmm.
And if you want to be a good marketer who's sharing a good message and sharing a good brand, you're going to have to do your homework, white people that look like me. Like, it's time for us to go and study and learn how to do this better. I like what you talked about with the marketing fails. Do you have any examples of marketing fails that you think we could really use as a case study to learn by?
There's just so many.
I know.
Yeah, some really good ones out there. I don't want to call anybody out, but things like razors, for example, when you have a company that deals with hygiene and you're talking about masculinity and femininity,
Hmm.
and your products across the board seem like they're more expensive for women than they are for men. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's a big fail because people will notice that. Certain things like I would say billboards that um, are a little bit, want to get your attention, but they may focus on sensationalism or, things like sex,
Mhm.
it's, can be a little bit offensive. There was one example of this advertiser using Facebook ads, and they're trying to get people to check out this fantasy game. And some of the themes in there were very off center because it was to appeal to children.
Mhm.
And there was some, very difficult, not cool, sexual themes in there. So, I think people just really have to use a lot of common sense, have, a lot of people on their team, not just men, but also women, and get some, was it get away from the tunnel vision and look
Yeah.
at things from a broad perspective.
Well, and I just want to point out that when you have a diverse group of people that are advising and consulting with you, you will have a better output, which is why, we, on all of our events that we do, we always reach out to a really diverse group of people,
Yeah.
different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different ages, different expertise, because it's a better output when we have representation from different points of view. And in your teams, even if you're small business owners, you should have an advisory board that is going to help you see things from different perspectives so that you can be effective at getting your message out on a wider scale. Otherwise, if you only, hear advice from people that think like you and do like you, you're going to reach a small percentage of the population. Whereas we're in
Sure.
a big world, and marketing allows us to be global with
Hmm.
so many different types of people. So
Right.
I like all of that.
Yeah.
So in terms of marketing strategy, do you have any like do's and don'ts that you recommend for people right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a whole list of them here. um, of course, we talked about having a diverse team. I was going to say also, don't give out misinformation.
Yep.
If you don't have the facts, if you don't have statistics to back it up, be very careful on making, substantiated claims with how much money someone's going to make if they take your program,
Right.
or, some health related results that someone could get out of taking, a product. Other things like, train people on ethical decision making. There's tons of content out there. There are lots of consultants that train on this. Look them up and try to bring them in to train your folks, train your people. Or just if you're a solopreneur, have them train you on ways to make ethical decision making, because that does say a lot about your business and how you put your messaging out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other couple of points I wanted to mention too is if you communicate to kids, stop. you know, uh, Make sure that your marketing is talking to parents and not kids, because you run in the red zone of really getting dinged by, Truth in Advertising, the Federal Trade Commission, and
Mm-hmm.
the Better Business Bureau. So avoid that, and just overall, just be transparent. About your pricing, your fees, your products and services, and make sure that you are consistent with the messaging.
Yeah, I feel like in business right now, and in our culture and our society, we're going through this transition of cleanup. We're cleaning up a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
and it's hard to go through the messes. But as you look at your business and as you look at how you're presenting yourself, you're going to be a better contributor. And for me, entrepreneurship has never just been about transacting dollars. Like you mentioned, clients feel when you're just about transacting dollars. For me, it's always been a platform where we can have a voice and where we
Hmm.
can do good in the world and where we can create a legacy that can live on. And I just think this is a wonderful time for all of us to open doors, have better conversation, learn how to be more loving, more caring, less angry, less bitter. And if you are that person that's angry and bitter on social media, it absolutely will come back to your business right now. Like,
Hmm.
you cannot be deaf. And I've seen that. I don't know, Michael, if you've seen that, but recently in, the advertising and digital marketing space, there are a lot of businesses that have been called out
Yeah.
for being silent or
Hmm.
being tone deaf or
Hmm.
being straight up insensitive, and they're
Yeah.
losing a lot of business because of it. So do the work first. I understand if you don't understand the history and the problem, because I am learning about it as well, but we have to do the work in
Mhm.
order to be able to be better, I don't know, better people, better citizens. It's not even
Better
just about,
citizen.
yeah, it's not even about better business. It's just like, let's be better humans.
Right.
I would love for us to be better humans.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And then the trust level will go up, and
Mm-hmm.
people will, start to believe in what you put out there for your business, your company. That thing that you're building, they will start to, be your biggest fans, your biggest supporters, your biggest ambassadors, and that's what we all want as entrepreneurs, right?
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. I'm so grateful that you came on and had this conversation with us. I feel like it's such a needed and important and timely conversation. And I hope that everybody is getting touched on not just a head level right now, but a heart level, a humanity level. Let's not just be better marketers, but let's be better all around. That's what I hope you're getting. What
Yeah.
about you, Michael? If there was one thing that you could like implant into everybody's brains right now, what would it be?
Wow. Yeah, be a better human, and being a better human doesn't mean that you sh- can't focus on sales and you can't be good in business, and
Yeah.
your business doesn't have to have a heart, but you can be creative, but be sensitive to your audience and their needs, and they
Mhm.
come first because they're going to keep you in business or not.
Yes.
But yeah, really, they're going to keep you in business, and yeah, do the right thing.
Awesome. Well, Michael, we so appreciate you being on. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Sure, absolutely. I am always on LinkedIn, and there are times where LinkedIn gets a little crazy, but there's so much activity, so many great things there. Find me on LinkedIn. Can also find me on my website, michaelroachcreative.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at the same handle at Michael Roach Creative.
Awesome. Well, we are grateful for you coming and sharing with us today. Thank you for being a part of our summit. You definitely contributed and made it better. So we appreciate you.